inviting our keynote speaker. Dr. Khama Rogo is I don't even have words to express. You've had everyone comes here and says, Dr. Khama, even Professor Toli, who has very many words, had no words. And I think a lot of the respect we have for Professor Khama Rogo is because of what he has managed to achieve within the health sector. There's many dreams we can have, there are many things you may want to do, but you have to get them done somewhere. And when we thought of who best to be our keynote speaker tonight, we thought, why not one of our very own? He has been president of KMA ahead of me, so as we sat there, we said, there's two presidents on that table. And following the American rule, you're always president, right? So he'll always be president of KMA. So we want to welcome Professor Khama Rogo. We want to hear from you. I'm sure you have words that will take us a long way into transforming this association. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. President Dr. Kitulu, the chief guest, Mr. Gulay, the executive committee of KMA, members of the council, representatives of other members of APSEA, leaders of professional societies, colleagues and friends. It's a pleasure and a great privilege to be here this evening at fairly short notice, because last week I had the privilege of making a presentation in Kisii, where the 13 counties of the Lake region were meeting. And as soon as I finished that, I got an urgent message from the president. And I was ordered that if I'm in the country, then I must be here this evening. And I said, yes, madam. I'm a faithful member of KMA, and I will be here on Friday at 6 o'clock to meet with my colleagues. And one of the reasons that I wanted to be here is because it's only when I come to KMA, rarely as I do, that I realize that I'm no longer young. Because when Dr. Maringo starts talking about geriatric care, I used to look around me to see who's going to benefit from it. It looks like I'm the one who is going to benefit from that. 96, more than 20 years ago, is when you people elected me to lead KMA. It's interesting that it's now over 20 years. A generation is with us, and the next generation will be with us too. It was in Kisumu. It was in a meeting that had more special branch than members. Because we were the young Turks then, and we were taking over the KMA. And we really did take over, because we had the choice then of either forming a union or transforming KMA from within. We chose to transform KMA from within, and the rest is history. Because that was a time when we moved from being just another professional association, sharing a room as an office at the professional center, moving on to the old buildings that you had there. And we set the dreams of having our own as a building, starting the housing and everything, introducing the indemnity scheme, the local ones, and so on. Those things were started during the 4 years that I was president of KMA. It's interesting, we talk IT, and at that time too, we had created a new system of helping doctors learn how to use a computer. And even worked in the company. Yes, it was not that easy. We even had an agreement with the company to sell at low cost computers for doctors, because at that time, doctors' front office never had a computer. It's interesting how things change. But something interesting too, that in the indemnity package, for the first time we moved that thing from being indemnized in the UK to come in Kenya. And to move that thing from the British Protection Society, for those who were there, we had to go to court because the 3 big hospitals here refused to recognize local indemnity. So we were in court with the Attorney General Wako and others to force Nairobi Hospital, Aga Khan and Gertrude to accept local indemnity because they said that they treated people who cannot be paid in Kenya shillings. So when you look back at the things that have happened, they are like yesterday, but they are things that are real. I remember too that we had the Human Rights Committee, Dr. Mahmoud is there, and those days, those were the days when human rights, if you mentioned that, you would go to jail. So it was rough times those days, and going on strike at that time meant that you disappeared and went underground. You could not get time on TV the way I've seen them do that now. And when you went underground and disappeared, they came to your registrar's flats and arrested your wife and a newborn. And they were taken to Kilimani police station to be kept there until your husband appears. So our wives actually went in, and they would be in the papers the following morning that they are in, and that is it. That's the way we used to be handled. Those days there was no Twitter, so if you were on strike in this whole country, then you relied on KBC and the newspapers. And you'd be in Mombasa and be told that the people in Kakamega have gone back on duty and the only one who is not on duty. There was no cell phones then, so you had to do this. So there was no way you could communicate. It is a pleasure to see nowadays that you're taken into court and you even tweet on what the judge is wearing. So these are interesting times, and when Dr. Kitulu asked me to come and say a few things during a new strategic thing, I said, yes, since I'm in the country, let me do this. Because I have a couple of things that I want to share with you. The first one is this. If you think that you're challenged at this time, then you've got it wrong. You really have no challenges. 20 years ago, when we took over KMA, KMA was simply a professional organization that organized meetings sponsored by drug companies, and you'd go there for the cocktails, and that was all. Welfare was not at the center of it. And the way we took this thing over was to make it more relevant. And as soon as we took over, we decided that we would create in KMA the African stool, which is 3-legged. And that stool would consist of the first leg would be the professional side. The second leg would be the social welfare side. And the third leg would be the sector development or the management of the sector. The seat of this African stool would consist of stakeholders that will be both internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. So as Professor Atuoli was highlighting what is in strategy, I was looking at it against where we were 20 years ago and asking myself, have we moved forward or not? And are we going to be doing things differently, or is it going to be more of the same? A strategic plan is supposed to help you do several things. One is to prioritize, because there's too many things in the life of leadership for you to be able to do everything. But you must do one or two things with which you get remembered. And I think that my team has done many things for which we are remembered. The second one is to be able to focus your resources towards those priorities. And in focusing on resources, I will tell you that the growth of the KMA from a membership-based things, which was very, very little, into the different things that we brought in was part of it. The housing society and so on, and how those things came to be and why they are going to remain integral to what we do. We must also ask yourself if we have new challenges, because because a strategic program that only solves the old issues and not new ones just can't work. But most important is that it must also gather people around same goals and same results. So the question is, do we as doctors have the same goals and therefore aiming at the same results? So let me take these three legs and quickly go through them. Professionalism, that's key. And one thing that we have failed to do is to help Kenya understand that the essence of being a professional is not the university certificate or degree that you get, but being a member of a society of professionals. Anybody can get a degree, but until you are a member of a society that is bound together by certain ethical boundaries, you are not a professional. And that's why in countries where people are more learned and more advanced than ours, it becomes compulsory that the only thing that makes you a professional is being admitted into the membership of that. So it's not the MBCHB that makes you the professional. That one gives you the entry point into that. And it's only when you become a member of that professional body are you then considered to have entered. So it's still failing in this country if the membership of the Kenya Medical Association is not compulsory and is not mandatory. So Dr. Kitulu and the team, this is the first assignment. It has to be done. I'm too old to help you in this, but please, please do not allow people who are not members of this august organization to call themselves my colleagues just because they have an MBCH. So mandatory, absolutely, take it from tonight that it has to be there, because only then will we be considered to be part of the global movement of people who are recognized by their own colleagues and are bound by that ethics. It is not what Dean Were reads for you there when you take the Hippocratic Oath, no. It is being recognized as being a member of that society. That's number one in professionalism. When that is done, then I think we'll start solving one of the biggest problems that we have in this country, which is professional leadership. Because the biggest failure of the health sector in this continent is that it does not have professional leadership. It's not that it is not led by professionals or people who have degrees in medicine, no. They have degrees in medicine, but they do not practice within the boundaries and ethics that are there. And when those people become our members that are mandatory, before they're appointed, they show that they are there. And we stand behind them and in front of them so that when they do the wrong things, when they procure falsely, we say that we are kicking you out. And when we kick you out, you lose your job too. That is when accountability comes in. And I think that it is upon us to make sure that that happens. Because there is no medicine that can disappear. There is no hospital that can fail to manage patients when it is led by professionals who really believe that they are on a mission to make a difference. So professionalism then has to be put in law. And this to me is what I want to remember you for, Professor Atwoli, and thank you for accepting to do it. The second area is in the welfare side. We did a lot of things on this welfare area. You may not know the history of the housing cooperative, and for those of you who are not KMA, how many housing estates do we have now? 4 housing estates, huge multi-million shilling estates. Felix, you are Chroma. Do you know of any other association that has anything close to this? No. And this was a vision that we had then. And you know what drove us to that vision? We believed then that the only, Zimbabwe and South Africa were coming up then and were taking a lot of our young doctors. So we sat down in the council and argued that the best way of keeping a person at home is if that person owned property. And as a young doctor, you cannot raise the 10 or 20% that you're supposed to. Number two, with the postgraduate program that brought people to Nairobi, the first 6 months you spent going to Afi House trying to look for a place to live. And for the next 4 years, you spend your time moving around because you're put in this estate and then they're moved, the government has not paid rent and they're kicking you out. And we said, you can't work like this. You must hold property. And we say that since the older doctors already have their residences, is there a way in which we can come together as a cooperative, get land initially from the government, we say later on buy, and get the banks to give us money to build our own houses in our own design at our own cost? That is where we started. And the first group of people to give us money was actually Shelter Freak. And Shelter Freak, a few years after that, voted Kenya Medical Association SACCO Housing Cooperative as the best housing cooperative in Africa, because we took money and we delivered. And it is through that the South Sea estate was built and the subsequent ones, so that young doctors and their young families could have a place they call their own. And once you are tied on to a mortgage, you're unlikely to run to South Africa. And this is something that people don't realize, that it is not just how much money you're given. It is what you own in your own country. You start becoming a citizen of that country. And what we wanted to do then was for every branch to have a housing estate, so that when you're in Eldoret, you have your own and all that. And those housing estates would have nursery schools, because we all have small children, and you'd have a shopping center. That is where we went to. And this is a vision that I believe even the younger ones still share. And it is something that I believe we can do much better on, because there is no thing that has appreciated in this country, not salaries, than the property that you own. And those of us who had the good luck then to buy houses at that time, right now we just walk to the bank laughing. And it should be the same with all the young people that are there. So follow that. And the welfare then has to be seen beyond your negotiation of salaries into the kind of businesses that we get to. And why do I say that? At that particular time, when we started going to the banks to give us loans for housing, I still remember one manager of the Barclays Bank calling me back and telling me, Dr. Rogo, please come back. I have a problem with your members. The bank accounts of doctors, there are two types. Some where there's a salary comes and goes. And there's a second one where there is only deposits, they never withdraw. And what I want you is to arrange for me to talk to your members and tell them that money is only useful when you use it for trading. Not when you look at your bank account and says there is a lot of money sitting there. So could you give me a chance to talk to your members so that we tell them, stop working for money, make your money work for you. That is the welfare side that we still don't understand. That even if you have a successful practice, and you've employed your sister-in-law there to be the one who receives money and banks it every day. Please make that money be invested. Don't just keep it there. If you can't invest it, bring it into the circle so that other young doctors can borrow it and do things with it. And that is still true, that we don't know how to handle money. And we should talk to other associations, accountants and so on, to have sessions with us Because it's not the amount of money that you have, but what you do with the little money that you have. And that money in welfare should also go into something else that we started at that time. There's something in life called going on holiday. We came to realize, and this one we got from the wives of our own members. Because when we had our annual meetings, you know, as chairman, you have the opportunity of dancing with the wives of colleagues. They would whisper to you that Dr. Rogo, thank you for organizing this thing because this is the only thing my husband brings me. So if the meeting was in Mombasa, then they see Mombasa for the first time. And this is coming from a group of people who sit in their clinics and advise people on work-life balance. Take some time off. Do A, B, C, D, and so on. And we came to realize then that one of the problems we had then that I hope the new generation has solved was that we never had group practice. It wasn't possible then. Everybody was an individual. And if you don't have group practice as an OBGYN like I, being called a successful OBGYN is being declared dead before you're 50. Because you run every day, you do evacuation of the uterus, you do cesarean section, your kids don't know you. But if there are 5 of you, at that time people believe group practice won't work. I believe group practice is the best thing. So change the business model, Dr. Tuoli, so that people stop working individually and start working as a group, so that you can take time off and bury your mother. Yes, there's some of you who missed your mother's funerals. I don't want to make you feel guilty, but you should. You've missed the birthdays of your kids. You don't remember the date of the wedding. And we talk of welfare, I do not know any welfare that is more fundamental than this kind of welfare. And it will only come if we change our business practice. It has to be group, it has to be contracting, and there must be a weekend or 2 that you take off. There's nothing wrong with a consultant being a member of Man U or Arsenal or AFC Leopards. And on Saturday, just wearing that shirt and going to dance Isukuti. On Monday, you will be a much better person. And we all used to go to City Stadium then as young doctors and consultants. The only problem is that when you arrive there together, even from medical school, AFC people would go to a different gate, or my young guys to a different gate. And when your team lost and you came back to the medical school, you hid until the end of the week, because the others were going to be laughing at you. But you are part of society, and you must be part of society. Being a doctor doesn't mean you are a renegade. So welfare, sir, must be seen beyond the salaries and remittances that you make. It is how we enjoy life. It is being part of a society. And that being part of a society will mean that you even know that registering as a voter, the time is now over. Some of you don't know that. You don't know that. And then when elections have been done, you say, these leaders. This is it. There is not a single leader in this country that doesn't lie on his back on a couch to be taken care of by you. Which brings me to the third leg of the stool, which is management of the sector. We have abdicated the responsibility of managing this sector. We are too quiet when people who don't know what they're doing are misleading our countries, and this is across the continent. The leadership of KMA must first and foremost now go to the county level. So I'm glad the branches are going to be in every county. You must be part of the county strategic plans. You must be represented there, not as somebody who is brought in there by the governor, but a member of the association who looks at that and says, your strategy is nonsense, and says so without blinking because you know what you're talking about. But there's something even more important than that, which is this. I have had the privilege of working across this continent. And one thing that I've realized is that there is need for us who are privileged to have private moments with our African leaders, whether it's a minister or a president or everything, to use that time to counsel them. Because that is the only time when these people give themselves up to somebody to tell them what is wrong with them. The rest of the time, women are dancing for them. The churches are praying for them for being thieves. And everybody is a psychopath. But as a doctor, you are not a psychopath. And that is the time, the private time that only doctors have, that you can tell these people the truth and tell them, sir, this and that I heard you say, but think about it seriously. And he will take more than 5 minutes in your clinic for you just to explain to him what you think and what you are. If the doctors in this continent were using that moment positively, I'm sure that the direction of Africa would be different. I'm sure that Zuma would not be doing what he's doing in South Africa now. I'm sure that some of the things we have seen done in Africa would not happen. I'm sure you will tell them that spending money on this item will not make a difference in the lives of your people. Unfortunately, many of us have used that privilege for personal gain. So rather than tell him the truth, you want to know whether he'll give you another plot and sign a paper with a green pen. And that, to me, is lack of professionalism. Hence, the importance of having the 3 legs of the stool working together to have all the seat where both the external and internal stakeholders sit. And who are these? These are the ordinary people. I look at your vision and I ask myself, if that mama from Teso, near the border with Busia, were to read this, and she was to sleep over it to understand what is the vision of these young people whom we have taken to school for so many years, to be leaders in engaging medical practitioners and voice for provision of higher standards of healthcare in Kenya and beyond. Put yourself in the position and the foot of that mama. What will be her understanding of this? Because if this vision is only yours and is not the vision of the people that you take care of, then that can be a vision that is moving us forward. So I want each one of you to take this thing, go back home. If you're still lucky to have a mother out there in the village, please send it to her. Give her 24 hours to get back to you, to tell you whether she is so impressed with you that you're now a doctor. Why do I ask that? A couple of years back, when my eldest daughter was graduating from university in the US, I had the privilege to go and listen to the old comedian Cosby, Bill Cosby. He was the commencement speaker. And this is what he said, that I, Bill Cosby, billionaire and all, I'm the first person to go to university